Before Dr. Octopus, before Green Goblin, before Venom, there was Chameleon, Spider-Man's very first villain ever published. But here's the wild part. Most fans think Chameleon is just a guy who wears disguises. In reality, he's one of the most dangerous manipulators in Marvel history. A master spy, psychological torturer, and a villain who has destroyed lives without ever throwing a punch. He's impersonated heroes. He's framed innocent people for murder. And at one point, he psychologically broke Spider-Man so badly that Peter Parker almost abandoned his entire life. Today, we're breaking down everything you need to know about Chameleon, from his comic book origins to his most important storylines, his powers, his weaknesses, and the comic runs you should read if you want to experience the character at his absolute best. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why Chameleon is one of the most underrated Spider-Man villains ever created. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Nerds of the Multiverse channel. Chameleon first appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man #1 in 1963, created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. Yes, that means that he holds a unique place in Marvel history as Spider-Man's first official supervillain. His real name is Dmitry Smirnikov, and he was born in the Soviet Union. Dmitry had a brutal childhood. He was constantly abused and belittled by his stepfather, who favored Dmitry's half-brother, a boy who would later become another Spider-Man villain, Sergei Kravenov, better known as Kraven the Hunter. Kraven was strong, confident, and admired. Dmitry was weak, quiet, and ignored, and that imbalance shaped his entire personality. Instead of developing physical strength, Dmitry learned something far more dangerous: how to become someone else. He began mastering disguise, deception, and impersonation at an extremely young age, and eventually he became an agent and master spy, using advanced disguises to infiltrate organizations and manipulate events from the shadows. And when he debuted in Spider-Man's first issue, he used those skills to impersonate people and steal military secrets. Spider-Man stopped him, but that moment marked the start of one of Marvel's longest-running rivalries. What makes Chameleon interesting is not just his disguises, it's his psychology. Dmitry is obsessed with identity, and he doesn't just pretend to be other people. He loses himself in those roles. And over time, his sense of self deteriorates so badly that he begins to view his own identity as meaningless. To Chameleon, people are simply masks to be worn. And this makes him uniquely terrifying, because most villains want power. Chameleon wants control over reality itself. The ability to rewrite who people believe they are interacting with. And if you can't trust the person standing in front of you, you've already lost. Unlike many Spider-Man villains, Chameleon has no traditional powers, but his skill set makes him incredibly dangerous. First, he is a master of disguise. In his earliest appearances, he used hyper-realistic masks and makeup that allowed him to perfectly mimic other people. But later in Marvel continuity, he upgraded to advanced holographic and technological-based disguises, allowing him to instantly change identities. He also has expert acting ability, voice mimicry, espionage training, psychological manipulation skills, and extensive intelligence network connections. At times, he has also used life model decoy style technology and android duplicates to extend his research. And because of this, Spider-Man often doesn't even know Chameleon is involved until it's too late. One of the most important aspects of Chameleon's story is his relationship with Kraven the Hunter. Kraven is Dmitry's half-brother, and their childhood shaped both characters in opposite ways. Kraven became a warrior who proved himself through physical dominance. Chameleon became a manipulator who wins through deception. But Dmitry also idolized Kraven. He admired the respect that Kraven received, and something he never experienced himself. And when Kraven died in the famous Kraven's Last Hunt storyline, it shattered Dmitry emotionally. In fact, much of Chameleon's later instability comes from trying to live up to Kraven's legacy, while knowing he never truly could. Next, let's talk some key storylines for the Chameleon, starting off with the first one, the original Amazing Spider-Man appearance. In Amazing Spider-Man #1, Chameleon impersonates multiple identities in order to steal defense secrets. His plan involved disguising himself as Spider-Man to frame the hero for crimes. And this immediately establishes his primary tactic: destroy Spider-Man's reputation instead of fighting him directly. This idea, framing Spider-Man for crimes, it becomes a reoccurring strategy for Chameleon throughout Marvel history. Another key storyline and one of Chameleon's most important modern stories is the Chameleon Conspiracy, written by Nick Spencer. In this storyline, Dimitri returns with an even darker plan. He begins manipulating Peter Parker's life by targeting people close to him. But the real twist is the introduction of Chameleon's mysterious sister, who has been psychologically controlling Dimitri for much of his life. This story dives deep into Chameleon's mental instability, and it explores how years of pretending to be other people has fractured his identity beyond repair. By the end of the story, it's clear that Dimitri doesn't even know who he truly is anymore. Another key Chameleon storyline is living up to Kraven's legacy, and this is in multiple Spider-Man runs. Chameleon becomes obsessed with honoring Kraven. Sometimes this means manipulating events behind the scenes to ensure Kraven's memory lives on, and other times it means spiraling further into madness, believing that deception is the only thing that he's good at. These stories highlight the tragic nature of the character, because underneath the manipulation and cruelty is someone who never believed he was worthy of being himself. We've talked about his skills, now let's talk about his weaknesses. Chameleon's greatest strength is also his greatest weakness, which is his lack of identity. Because Dimitri constantly impersonates others, he has almost no stable sense of who he truly is, and this makes him emotionally fragile and psychologically unstable. Another weakness is that physically, he's not very powerful. In a direct fight with Spider-Man, he stands almost no chance. So if Spider-Man manages to corner him without any disguises or escape routes, the battle ends pretty quickly. But the challenge is always finding him first. If you want to understand Chameleon fully, these are some essential comics to check out. Amazing Spider-Man #1, which is his first appearance in the beginning of Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery. Amazing Spider-Man numbers 307 and 308, a storyline that explores his psychological instability. Then you have Spectacular Spider-Man number 245 through 257. This is some major character exploration involving his mental breakdown. And then you have Amazing Spider-Man, The Chameleon Conspiracy, which is one of the most modern and in-depth looks at the character. These stories show how Chameleon evolved from a simple disguise villain into a deeply psychological antagonist. Chameleon represents something different from most Spider-Man villains. Green Goblin attacks Peter Parker's life. Venom attacks Spider-Man physically. But Chameleon attacks reality itself. He destroys trust. Anyone could be him. Your friend, your ally, even Spider-Man himself. And that paranoia is what makes him so dangerous. Because sometimes the biggest threat isn't the villain you see coming. It's the one already standing next to you. Again, if you want the best Chameleon stories, start with The Amazing Spider-Man #1. Then go to Spectacular Spider-Man number 245 through 257. Read Kraven's Last Hunt for his connection to Kraven. And then The Amazing Spider-Man, The Chameleon Conspiracy. These stories give you the full spectrum of the character, from his classic roots to his modern psychological depth. Chameleon may not have super strength. He may not have an alien symbiote or pumpkin bombs, but what he does have is something far more dangerous. The ability to make you question who you are looking at. And in a world where anyone could secretly be him, you may never know if Chameleon has already won. If you made it this far in the video and you learned something new today about the character, comment down below Chameleon. And also, if you want to see more about how he might be connecting to Spider-Man Brand New Day, check out my latest theory video, because you will not be disappointed. That is all I have for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like, and if you want to see more Marvel content such as news, rankings, theories, lore videos, gaming videos, and more, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload. Also, for live updates, I am on social media. You can follow me on TikTok at Nerds of the Multiverse, on Instagram at The Nerds of the Multiverse, and on X at Nerds of the Mult1. And if you've not already subscribed to the Nerd Bros Podcast YouTube channel, make sure you do so. It's a podcast with myself and the Nerds of Ren. It's Star Wars, it's Marvel, it's DC, and it is every Tuesday night, and you do not want to miss it. But with all that being said, I love you 3000, and I will see you in the next video.